If you're hurt, injured, don't waste time. Gary Johnson cries for every dime.
Welcome to Simply the Law, a program created by attorney Gary C. Johnson. Simply the Law provides free legal advice and encourages happiness and quality of life. Now, here's Simply the Law with Gary C. Johnson. Hello, everyone. Welcome into Simply the Law. I'm Keith Casebolt. What a week. Good to see you. My dear friend, Gary Johnson.
Wonderful. Hey, guys and gals. How you doing? Last week, a lady called me and said, Gary, I know how you're trying to talk us into being positive, how you're saying we need to be positive, and how you're saying how important it is to make the choice to be happy. And she says, and I'm trying, but you don't understand, I have problems. I have all kinds of problems. The problems here, problems there, problems everywhere, problems, and I can't get through these problems so that I can be what you say we can be as far as how we feel in life and how comfortable we can be living life. So tonight, our show is going to be about problems.
Oh boy, this is going to be fun. This is going to be fun.
So, but before we get to that, I want to remind my friends how important it is that you love your body. I may start saying this just like under insurance on every single show, because if you can't love yourself, you cannot love anyone else. You have to start there. And really, it shouldn't be that hard, because you're all you got. Your body, it's all you got. Nothing else. You don't have anything else.
You know, the other day, you and I were talking a little bit about this on the radio, and you said, Keith, I shouldn't even have to tell people to love their body. You know the truth. You know when you're eating the wrong thing. You know when you're letting yourself get upset and you're feeling stress. You know when you're worrying over something that you can't do nothing about. You know if you're smoking a cigarette and you shouldn't be doing it. You truthfully know if you're laying on the couch and not exercising when you should be doing something. You already know all the things that you're telling us.
You know, my friends, you know every one of them. And you know that inside of you, it tells you. Your chatterbox tells you. And you know better. And yet we, for some crazy reason, we do it anyhow. So, the purpose of this show is to keep you from maybe not doing it as often.
You did something else too on the radio. You pointed out, you said, when you go and get that new car, you get this operation manual, and you live by it. You change the oil when it needs changed. You fill it up with the right gasoline. You wash the car. You shine the car. You do all the things to take care of this car, but yet you don't do that to the body.
We neglect our body. And maybe it's because life is easy, or maybe it's too hard, for whatever reason. I encourage my friends, I urge you, take care of your body. Remember, and I may say it on every show, it's going to last you for the rest of your life. You cannot replace it. There is no other body you can get. It's all there is. Do everything in your power to protect it today so it will be there for the future you. Because if you don't protect it today, it will not be there for the future you. But the future you will still be there. With this body that this past you didn't take care of. So I urge you, my friends, for your sake, take care of your body. Please. And it'll save you a whole lot of money and time and going to the doctors and medical bills if you do. Okay? Enough said on that. I talked a little bit about corporations last week. corporate America, and that really corporations exist to make money for shareholders. They have no soul, empathy, and all those things. When you're getting ready to choose a lawyer, the question you need to ask yourself is, do you want a large corporation representing you, or do you want a local lawyer that's there, that will be there for you? And I say that because in Kentucky, we now have a large national corporation that's advertising that they are the biggest and the best large personal injury corporation in the country. Now, do you want that large corporation, being a corporation, representing you, or do you want your local lawyers who are there that you may be going to church with that are in your community? And enough said on that.
Okay, well, the only thing I was going to point out is because you're telling us that corporations meet in the boardroom and they talk about quarterly profits. They talk about dividends. They talk about making money.
For the shareholders.
For the shareholders, yes. I get my.
Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
Stay with us. We're going to talk about problems tonight. And I don't know what problems, and I don't know how the conversation went with Gary and the lady, but we're going to find out, and I'm sure it's going to be entertaining. So stay with us. We'll be back with Gary C. Johnson and Simply the Law right after this.
I'm Gary C. Johnson. I developed a method of representing my clients called Judo Law. Using Judo Law, our team set the record for the largest personal injury verdict in the state of Kentucky. No other law firm has even come close. We've had several multi-million-dollar verdicts since then, and guess what? Now, most of our cases settle. If you've been hurt and you need money fast, give us a call, pound hurt.
Welcome back in to Simply the Law. You know, last week you told us the story about the lady who was living in the house with a dirt floor and that lived in the hollow and was asked, what would you do if you came into money? And she said, I would help the poor, because her problem wasn't as great as some other people that she knew that had problems.
Yes.
So tonight we're going to talk about problems, and I think we're going to find out the same thing. No matter what our problem is, there's going to be somebody that's got a much bigger problem.
Okay, folks, here we go. Let's go to the computer. There's a number in case any of you need to reach us. We're in Lexington. There's a number in Lexington. GaryCJohnson.com. In general, please make sure you have underinsurance that protects you and your family. John C. Maxwell has a book out called The Difference Maker. And every so often I pick it up and reread some of the things of it. And he had an entire section on problems. So I decided to steal some of it so I could share it with you. But I'm giving him credit for it, okay? Problems. A great leader doesn't treat problems as special. He treats them as normal. If you're working, expect problems. If you're dealing with family, expect problems. If you're just minding your own business and trying to relax, expect problems. If everything goes according to plan, then be pleasantly surprised. What do you think about that, Keith?
Boy, that puts it in perspective. If we get up and we do anything, we're going to be faced with problems,
That's
right?
We are. That's just the way it is. Any of you out there that don't have any problems right now, hold your hand up. Uh-oh, didn't see any hands.
Gary, you're almost like taking the attitude that the greater the problem, the greater opportunity to overcome it.
It is. It's wonderful. It's an opportunity rather than a problem, because it makes you use your brain and your ingenuity and how you face adversity and all of those things. It is wonderful to have all these problems. That's why the good Lord fixed it so you'd have to put up with them.
So let's put it in perspective. Like in the Bible, if there hadn't have been a Goliath, David could have never been a hero.
That's right. He solved the problem.
He solved the problem because he had a Goliath in front of him. So you're saying it's okay if we're going to have problems. It's normal. It's life.
It's normal. It's just a part of life. Let's go back, computer. I got a little bit more I want to share with you on problems. If it doesn't, and you've planned accordingly, then you won't get so frustrated. A problem not anticipated is a problem. A problem anticipated is an opportunity. Think about that,
That's
folks.
good.
Author and former economic planner John Perkins believes there are three kinds of people in our society: those who can't see or refuse to see the problems, those who see the problems and because they didn't personally create them are content to blame someone else,
Oh, that's a good one.
those who see the problems and though they didn't create them are willing to assume personal responsibility for solving them.
Boy.
And that's what I want all of my friends to be.
Now that puts us in three categories, doesn't it? Obviously, we don't want to be the person that can't see them. Number two, we don't want to be the person that says, okay, I see the problem, but I didn't have anything to do with it, so let it be. You're saying we need to be the aggressive type to say, hey, I'd like to think about a way to solve that problem.
Even though you didn't create the problem, even though it may be someone else's problem, if you can be creative and help solve that problem, then do it. Participate in life, I guess is what they're saying. Be number three. Be the one, the very one, that looks at the problem and says, let's solve this baby. Let's fix this baby. Let's use this baby as an opportunity to grow.
Gary,
That's the key to it.
I'm almost getting the feeling from you that you're telling us that really all we are problem solvers. And the problems that we choose to solve will determine the amount of money that we make or how we feel. So if you solve a small problem, you're paid accordingly. If you solve a big problem, you're paid accordingly.
But there are people that do not have the ability, mentally or otherwise, to solve their problems. That's where number three comes in, where you see the problem, you recognize it, and you realize you can do something about this problem, while that other person may not be able to. When the good Lord made us, He made us extremely different. He made us, some people smart. He made some people dumb. He made some people not being able to do the things that normally happen, but yet He still gave them probably something that's well worthwhile. Maybe they could sing. Maybe they could play a musical instrument. Maybe they were great at being a carpenter. But everybody has a talent. I was thinking that this morning as I was driving to my office that I'm left-handed and I can't hold a hammer right. And every time when I was young, somebody wanted me to try to help them do carpenter work, I couldn't hit the darn gone nail. I would always make the nail go off to one side or the other. Now, if I'd had tried to make my living being a carpenter, I would have starved to death. I'd have gone broke buying nails because I didn't have that talent.
That wasn't the problem that you were gifted
I
from the
couldn't
good
solve that
Lord
problem.
to
That was,
do.
to me, that was a predicament, unsolvable. So my choice was, do I hang around and try to keep fighting it, or do I step aside and move around it, do something else?
And let somebody that was gifted to solve that problem do it while you move on to the gift that you were given to solve the other problems.
That's right. So,
You know, you're talking, it made me think about the movie Sling Blade. Some of our guys over here may remember it, when the guy who was a little bit mentally challenged worked at the lawnmower shop. And the guy came in and he said, I've done everything in the world to get this lawnmower running and I can't do it. And they asked Carl to look at it, and Carl looked at it and said, well, if you put some gas in it, it might help. And they said, you think of the simplest things. But he solved the problem.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's take a break. We'll come right back. I got some more stuff I want to talk to you about on problems, my friends.
We are discussing problems, and as Gary said, that hits all of us. If we're breathing, we've probably got some kind of problem in our life, but he's putting it in perspective. Stay with us. Simply the Law with Gary C. Johnson, returning right after this. Eastern Kentucky, southern West Virginia, and southwest Virginia. It can be a tough territory to reach when it comes to marketing. We can help. We can also help you find your identification. And we have plenty of services to do it and a lot of experience behind us, over 37 years. In fact, we've either booked or sold nearly $70 million in advertising in this region. You need a new voice, a new idea, a new concept? Casebolt Marketing. We're ready to go to work for you today. Our motto is nothing happens until you make it happen. So let's get started today. Welcome back into Simply the Law. Now, to our friends, the lady who called you said, I want to be happy. I would love to do all the things that you're telling, but you don't understand the problems I've got. Without a shadow of a doubt, we've got friends that are watching right now saying, oh, this lady's problems, they're not nearly what my problems are. We all believe our problems are the most severe, and to us they are, correct?
And problems are part of life, part of living. So, my friends, let's go back to the computer and see what I picked up out of the Maxwell book that I could share with you. Okay? People reaction to problems are different. Some flee it. They try to get away, but problems always follow them. Some forget it. They hope the problem will go away, but the problems left alone only get worse. Some fight it. They resist, but the problem's still there. Some just face it. They look at the problem realistically and determine a way to deal with it and solve it.
Okay, so now with all of these things that you're telling us, now I'm sitting here thinking, everything that we have in life, the ability to fly, the ability to drive a car, heating and cooling, electricity, everything is because somebody saw a problem and decided to solve that problem.
That's right. And therefore, we have the benefit of it.
So these people were not looking at it and doing the first two categories that you said. They looked at it and said, oh, what an opportunity. If I solve this problem, how it's going to help everybody around me.
Well, you're leading me into some stuff I've got.
Never mind. I want to see it, please.
Okay, let's go back to the computer. You evaluate the problem, if you can, while it's still small enough to be solved. If you don't, it becomes a predicament and you're in deep, you know what.
Yeah, you can put out a spark.
No problem, believe it or not, is settled instantly. You can't have instant gratification on getting rid of a problem. Embrace each problem as a potential for opportunity. Wow. Now, adversity paves the way for success, right? We've heard that always says that.
Absolutely.
Right? No question. So what does that mean? King Gillette was so tired of trying to sharpen his straight razor that he developed a safety razor with disposable blades. Now you have your Gillette razor blades.
No kidding.
And that's where that come from. He had a problem trying to keep his razor sharp.
Yeah.
So he could cut his beard. So he went out and developed the safety razor that was disposable.
So there was another quote that you and I had talked about on the radio several times. This gentleman, Mike Murdoch, said, the things that you can tolerate, you will never change. So when the problem gets to the point that you can no longer tolerate it, then you decide to change it or solve it. True?
That's right. Okay, let's go back to the computer. I got another one to show you that I think is interesting. Chester Greenwood suffered frostbitten ears and developed earmuffs then.
There you go. That plays right into it.
He solved that problem. Humphrey O'Sullivan, a printer, became so tired of coworkers who kept stealing the rubber mat he stood on that he invented rubber heels for shoes.
No kidding.
Think about that. Think of people who have bigger problems when you're dealing with problems, okay? There's always more than one way to solve a problem. You've got to think it through and ponder it. Use the brain the good Lord gave you, my friends, to deal with a problem. And you will be amazed at what you can come up with. And I've got one little cute thing on here about this woman solving a problem. And I think you'll find it fairly funny, but in a not necessarily a nice way, but funny. So we're going to go back to the computer, and I'm going to see if I can find it on here to share with you. An older woman was being tried for the murder of her third husband. The lawyer, she's on the stand, the lawyer asked her, "What happened to your first husband?" "Well, he died of mushroom poisoning," said the woman. "Well, how about your second husband?" "He died of mushroom poisoning too," she replied. But on the third husband, she had a problem. "Well then, what about your third husband?" "He died of a brain concussion." "Well, how did that happen?" asked the lawyer. "He wouldn't eat the mushrooms."
So she solved the problem.
She solved the problem. She still got rid of the husband. So I just thought I'd introduce that into it.
That is
humor.
That is pretty good. So he wouldn't eat the mushrooms, so it was the concussion that killed him.
So,
Gary, I know you're pointing this out because I guarantee you that if we all laid our problems down and we wrote them down and we started looking at other people's, we would start feeling a little bit guilty for even complaining because we would see people with real problems. And unfortunately, on a daily basis, you have people that walk through your door or wheeled through your door or contact you that really have problems.
if you can't find anybody out there that's got worse problems than you do, then you got a real problem. And I'll bet you can. Let's go back to computer. I got a little bit more stuff to share with my friends. Positive thinking is how you think about a problem. Enthusiasm is how you feel about a problem. The two together determine what you do about a problem. Norman Vincent Peale. Your attitude is the difference maker in solving problems, period. Okay.
You know, back to this unsolicited advice, I was just thinking, many of us are good at solving everyone else's problems.
Well, you can see them.
But we're not good at solving our own problems. And in solving our own problems, we've really got to take control of the situation and be accountable.
I read a thing about Thomas Edison. He had a little old shop that he was working out of, which was his laboratory. And he couldn't pay his rent, so every week he'd give a sheriff a few dollars to not serve the papers on him to evict him. And that was working pretty good. Well, he couldn't pay his gas bill because everything, your lighting and everything back then was gas. Gas lights for your electricity. Well, the gas company come along and said, you don't pay your bill. He didn't have any money, so they cut his gas off and he was there in the dark. And Edison looked around and said, I'll do something about that gas company for what they did to me. He had a problem, he had no lighting. So what did he do? He formed an electricity company. He invented a light bulb. He literally destroyed the business of the gas company. And the company that he formed became General Electric. Not General Gas, but General Electric. He had a problem, he faced it, and he solved it.
Now there's your David and Goliath, right? You're up against Goliath, and Thomas Edison becomes the role of David and slays the giant and becomes the giant himself in the legend.
That's right, he did. Do we have another break?
We do.
Let's take it.
We'll take a break and we'll come back and wrap up this program. It's been a program on problems, and I know everyone's thinking about what theirs are. We'll tell you how we end this program when we come back. Gary C. Johnson and Simply the Law.
People are asking, what is Judo Law? Judo is a martial art that uses the opponent's strength to defeat them by not opposing it directly. Gary C. Johnson created a method of practicing law based upon that principle. It worked so well, he named it Judo Law. To see the results, go to GaryCJohnson.com. To have Gary and his team of judo lawyers go to work for you, dial pound HURT. This is an advertisement.
Welcome back into Simply the Law. All right, we started out this program talking about the lady who called you who had the multiple problems. And I think that a lot of us will say, oh, yeah, I've got the list. Gary, how do we tackle that list? What do we do if we're going to try to overcome the problems in our lives?
You need to list your problems in order of priority that have to be dealt with, and then deal with them one at a time. The odds are you will never be able to deal with them all at once. In other words, they probably didn't all come on all at once either, did they, if you've got them. It takes time to get all those problems if you've got a bunch of them. So take the one that's the most imminent that you have to deal with and deal with it. Put the others on the back burner. Ignore them for a day or two, if you can, because you have to deal with the ones that are going to really affect your life immediately. And then get creative. There's always more than one way to solve a problem. Ask your friends, your priest, your minister, whatever. Get some advice. You may find somebody smarter than you that can tell you an easy way to get rid of that problem. Something that's, don't be ashamed. For heaven's sakes, don't be ashamed to share your problem. And it's embarrassing sometimes when the messes we get ourselves in, right? Huh?
And some of our problems are going to be with people. They could be assumed, or they could be slights or conflicts. You're going to tell us go straight to the source and get that over with immediately?
Get it done. Deal with it. Bring it out in the open. Write it down. Deal with it, though, because it will not go away on its own. But with you, the good Lord gave you a fine brain. Use it. Use that brain.
And I've got to get this in before the program ends. Anytime I've spoken to Gary about a problem that I have thought was pretty important, he always comes back with, are they going to cut you up and put you in a pot, boil you and eat you? And I'm like, no. He said, well, then it's no problem. We can work on it. We can work on it. We can fix it. It'll be okay. And that's what you're saying to our friends out there. If that's not the case with your problem, you can work on it and you can fix it.
And you can cause yourself to have a really, really, really serious mental problem with depression and everything else if you don't deal with these other problems.
Great advice. Thank you so much for tuning in. On behalf of Gary C. Johnson, I'm Keith Casebold, and as always, Gary and I look forward to seeing you again next week at this very same time.
Thank you for watching Simply the Law, a program created by Gary C. Johnson. Until next week, may you be safe, blessed, and happy.